Stop and think how many songs are out there that you really like, and you don't have any idea what the person was talking about. And you don't have any idea what the person was talking about. And you don't have any idea what the person was talking about.
There are many tools that are allowing the system of the Antichrist Dajjal to flourish. One of the most effective tools is the indoctrination of the masses through the media. Either directly or subliminally, they are implanting messages into your subconscious. What might seem as a love song directed towards the spouse is in fact a direct worship to the Dajjal, his system, and his master, Satan. In Britney Spears' I'm a Slave for You, we witness her chanting her words of worship. Draped in a snake, the biblical image of Satan as highlighted in the book of Genesis. As she sexually dances with the reptile, she is confessing to the entire world on live television that she is a slave for him. These celebrities are nothing more than puppets, being controlled from behind the scenes. And it's been in our faces this whole time. When you discover who runs the music industry and what their agendas are, only then will you be able to understand what is really going on. But one cannot fully grasp the length to which satanic pop music has been utilized unless we study the queen of pop, Madonna. This is only one example of perhaps any of her music videos and songs, all of which can be dissected as such. Her words seem to be coming straight out of the mouth of Satan, luring you into his world. She first begins with an invitation to open up our hearts and minds, hinting that by restraining ourselves, we're frozen.
You only see what you want to see. How can life be what you want it to be? You're frozen. You're so consumed with...
Certain Islamic traditions narrate that the jinn shapeshift into black birds. Almost a direct reference is made by her ritualistic connection with these beings. Again, like the gem, Madonna shapeshifts into a black dog.
What's wrong with me? It's a thief in the night to come and grab you. It's some creeper inside you and consume you. A disease of the mind, it can control you. It's too close for comfort. It's like the darkness is light. It's like the darkness is light. The darkness is light. Darkness is light.
Stop and think how many songs are out there that you really like, and you don't have any idea what the person was talking about.
This journey will not be an easy one, but it is a necessary path to achieve your freedom. What is the most efficient and effective way to control the world? By controlling the thoughts of the masses. If you have the world thinking the way you want them to, then there would be very little need to force them to do anything. They will line up willfully to do your bidding.
Now you might be noticing I don't feel about that war the way we were told we were supposed to feel about that war, the way we were ordered and instructed by the United States government to feel about that war. See, my mind doesn't work that way. I got this real moron thing I do. It's called thinking. And I'm not a really good American because I like to form my own opinions. I don't just roll over when I'm told to. Sad to say, most Americans just roll over on command. Not me. Not me. I have certain rules I live by. My first rule, I don't believe anything the government tells me. Nothing. Zero.
The greatest form of control is where you think you're free when you're being fundamentally manipulated and dictated to. One form of dictatorship is being in a prison cell and you can see the bars and touch them. The other one is sitting in a prison cell but you can't see the bar and you think you're free.
What the human race is suffering from is mass hypnosis. We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers.
And I don't take very seriously the media or the press in this country, who are nothing more than unpaid employees of the Department of Defense, and who most of the time function as kind of an unofficial public relations agency for the United States government.
Because if you're a believer, you can never justify war. You can never justify war. You can never justify colonialism or neo-colonialism or imperialism. You can't justify that if you're really a believer of the book, where it talks about the least of these. And as I say, our role in life is that the blessed of us must help the rest of us until the rest of us become the blessed of us.
Just about all of the news and information you get. It's a big club. And you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long, where they tell you what to believe all day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream. Because you have to be a slave to believe it.
The control and manipulation of public opinion has been the Illuminati's greatest weapon in gaining control of countries and states. Once they are in control of our minds, then the people begin to act in a manner that fits their agendas. Thus, they remove any form of opposition to their cause. The greatest threat to their plan, more so than any amount of weaponry, is a free thinking mind. As such, they set about an attempt to control perhaps every aspect of our everyday life, ensuring their agenda moves on unhinged. The weapons they are using? Well, they can be found in your very homes, entertaining you and your children, gradually indoctrinating you without you even realizing it.
And in order to further this process of transformation of mankind into carbon copies of themselves, they bring to the world something called globalization. The whole world becomes connected. The whole world becomes interconnected. And as the world becomes interconnected, television is used as the master instrument for brainwashing the rest of mankind.
And why is that woe to us? Because you people and 62 million other Americans are listening to me right now. Because less than 3% of you people read books. Because less than 15% of you read newspapers. Because the only truth you know is what you get over this tube. Right now, there is an entire generation that never knew anything that didn't come out of this tube. This tube is the gospel, the ultimate revelation. This tube can make or break presidents. So you listen to me. Listen to me. Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So if you want the truth, go to God. Go to your gurus. Go to yourselves. Because that's the only place you're ever going to find any real truth.
They have put in place institutions which will ensure that that society will continue to be ruled by them, by property, and in the process they seek to transform the rest of mankind into carbon copies of themselves.
As you study certain artists, you realize a struggle between those who want to use music for negative outcomes and those who wish to heal the world through music. Michael Jackson, for example, was thoroughly aware of their plans. Such artists, they will do their best to place obstacles in their way. If more serious steps are needed, first they will try to destroy your public image, and when necessary, they will take you out.
He had this idea, it was kind of a virologist's idea. He believed that you could cure racism and hate, literally cure it, by injecting music and love into people's lives. When he was scheduled to perform at a peace rally, gunmen came to his house and shot him down. 2 days later, he walked out on that stage and sang. Somebody asked him why. He said, the people who are trying to make this world worse are not taking a day off. How can I light up the darkness?
Don't let them fool you. Or even try to fool you. Oh no.
I mean, here it is the natural instinct, and here is control. You are to combine the two in harmony. Not if you have one to the extreme, you will be very unscientific. If you have another to the extreme, you become all of a sudden a mechanical man, no longer a human being. So it is a successful combination of both. So therefore, it is not only, so therefore it's not pure naturalness or unnaturalness. The ideal is unnatural naturalness or natural unnaturalness. I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
They don't want that sort of message dominating the industry. Instead, they push them out to make way for their appointed singers. If one looks at the Freemasonic symbol, one recognizes the one eye. queen of pop, Madonna, has long been part of the Jewish sect, the Kabbalah, a religion that is inseparable from the Freemasons. Madonna has become one of the leading Illuminati tools in the entertainment industry. Although not all musical artists are their servants, the majority of them work as tools for the Illuminati and the Dajjal. Most of the stars are ignorant to their actions, but some know the agenda very well. Industry heads are determined to use entertainment as a means of corruption. You find this most noticeably in pop music, where the artists do not write their own music, lyrics, or even select their songs. They are just puppets and merely do what they are told. And since the Illuminati control the industry, they control which songs become hits and which become failures. Through these stars, the Illuminati continues to indoctrinate us with their latest trends.
The minute I started breaking the all-time record of record sales, I broke Elvis's records, I broke Beatles' records. The minute it became the all-time best-selling albums in history in the Guinness Book of World Records, overnight they called me a freak, they called me a homosexual, they called me a child molester, they said I tried to bleach my skin, they made everything to turn the public against me. This is all complete conspiracy. You have to know that.
Law enforcement official tells the Associated Press Los Angeles County coroner has ruled Michael Jackson's death a homicide.
Hollywood itself is a word. The word is interesting because it's a word that comes from a pagan. Hollywood is the holy wood, and it was the wood that the magical wands were made out of in the pagan sorcery, magic. And these wands were believed that the sorcerers that possessed them could put people into trances and control them. This is part of, this is symbolic, but it's also important to understand that part of what Hollywood literally does is it puts people into trances. It's a dream state. They call it the dream machine in the United States. And it creates fantasies for people. It puts people into these sleep. Now, one of the things that's interesting that in the part of what's done in movie theaters, in darkened rooms where people watch television, is literally a trance state that occurs. So what's called suspended state of disbelief. You enter into a state, you suspend your disbelief and enter into a state whereby you begin to believe what you internally realize is imagination. It's falsehood. And people get caught up in them. People cry during films, all this catharsis that takes place in these things. Many of the films, and this is an important element in the control mechanism, is literally allow people to go and have certain type of catharsis as a purging experience, which Aristotle talks about the necessary element. One of the necessary elements of tragedy is to create this cathartic experience. And this is why a lot of the films, especially also news and things like that, they have this tragic, cathartic experience of watching the tragedies of others and then feeling safe and complacent in their own experience of the suspended state of illusory well-being. So these are very intricate and sophisticated methods. Now, I think it's dangerous. Although there are elements, there's concerted efforts that take place, there's also a lot of people that have similar worldviews that aren't necessarily working together in concerted efforts. But the corporate elite is a very small group of people. They really are. It's not a large group of people, and these people definitely have very powerful agendas, and they're working towards them.
When pulling the strings behind the various forms of media, those in control would in most cases place two parallel messages on display. One, which is the direct surface message that everyone catches. The other, however, is the deeper and more symbolic message being delivered to you. This technique is thoroughly established in the realm of Hollywood. One of the many examples of such use of dual messages is Hollywood's use of the Lady in Red, a constantly repetitive image in virtually most films. The concept of the Lady in Red plays a large role in the delivery of certain messages to the viewer. The choice of the color itself is interesting, since the color has always been associated with sexual desire. In fact, Eastern schools of spirituality, when dealing with a person's chakras, connect the color red with the sacral chakra. Basically, the lowest level where spirituality is overtaken by physical urges. So what is the significance of the lady in red that we see so overly used in the media? This is Connie Nielsen, playing the role of the lady in red in the film, The Devil's Advocate. The film stars Keanu Reeves as an ace lawyer who is offered the chance of a lifetime to work for one of the most successful law firms in the country. As we later learn in the film, the man who offered him this job is in fact Satan himself. One of the ways in which Satan wins over Reeves' soul is through Connie Nielsen's character, the lady in red. She is, in the end, his weakness. The lady in red represents a more exciting life. She is a distraction from the straight path. She is everything we've been told that we want. She can make us believe that having her will make our life better. But will it? She is Satan's secret weapon, representing all your carnal desires of sex, money, and fame. Through her, you will choose temporary pleasures above heavenly ones. Through her, Satan will win over your soul. He has her waiting for you on every corner, in the shape and form of materialism, sexual desire, and all other paths he tries to lure you into.
I was with her then. The bigger picture is clearing up. You now see the system for what it is. Awakening to the truth isn't easy, and whether you like it or not, your life is going to change.
Can't go back. No. But if you could, would you really want to?
will come many battles between the oppressors and you. However, the most immediate battle, and the one they are winning, is the battle for your souls. As wars come and go, the war for your mind, body, and soul will never end. And this is why each and every one of us are involved in this system. So what are we, really? The Eastern spiritual schools see the body as having energy points. The sacral point. This deals generally with your sexual energy. To enrich this point positively, it must be used as such. The navel point. This deals with personal power and storage of the life force. To build one's life force correctly, one must eat healthy and natural foods. The heart point. This deals with compassion, love, respect, and emotional fulfillment. As such, to energize this section, one must conduct healthy relationships, love, harmony, and respect with others. The throat point. This deals with communication and self-expression. And finally, the crown point. This deals with wisdom, intuition, awareness, and if all other points are in harmony, the crown also brings balance to spirituality. According to the Eastern schools, it is only by enriching each of these chakras in the right way can you reach your potential as a human being to become a free soul. We find a similar tone within Islam. For the sacral point, we can learn to benefit from the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, who taught us the benefits of marriage. For the navel point, our Prophet taught us to fill our stomachs with 1/3 food, 1/3 water, and 1/3 air, and to eat food bought from money that is blessed and legitimate. For the heart point, our Prophet told us that he had come to complete teachings of respect and compassion, and that our heart was to be dedicated as such towards others and towards Allah. For the throat point, our Prophet always taught us to speak the truth and to speak with kindness. And for the crown, we were taught to contemplate about the creation of Allah. Therefore, one must invest and enrich all their physical, mental, and emotional requirements into the righteous path. That is what frees a man. And the Illuminati know this very well. It is no coincidence that their targets are the very same points we've discussed. One by one, they've attacked our energy points in the very order they exist.
Building number 7 at the World Trade Center was a 47-story building with a steel frame. No airplane crashed into it, nor did the towers fall onto it. However, this building disintegrated on September 11th. This satellite image shows the World Trade Center about a year before the attack. Building 7 is the tall building at the top. Building number 1 is the North Tower.
No warning signs that I'm aware of.
And it was a revelation that the White House had no intention of making public.
President Bush was told in August that Osama bin Laden might be planning an attack involving a hijack.
Could have predicted.
Nobody in our government, at least.
August 6th,
I believe the title was Bin Laden Determined to Attack Inside the United States.
70% of family members' questions were never answered during the 9/11 Commission report.
Charlie Hamilton and Thomas Keane said they were set up to fail.
I mean, I remember the commission. It's a scam. It's absolutely disgusting.
The questions, Mr. President. The questions.
He's an architect experienced in steel structures. Now Richard Gage is touring the country with a controversial message about September 11th.
Richard Gage is here to show us why he's calling for a more thorough investigation into the collapse of the World Trade Center buildings. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. It's great to be here.
Well, first of all, give us a little bit more about your background.
Well, I'm an architect of 20 years, a member of the American Institute of Architects, and I've been studying steel frame, fireproof buildings for about that long.
We ask that for clarification because as we get into this, we want people to make sure that you're not just somebody with a wacky idea.
Right.
Okay, you come with some science to you. What is the official reason for the collapse of the World Trade Center towers?
Well, we're told that the planes hit the buildings and there was an explosion and a fire, and about an hour and a half later, in the case of the North Tower, the buildings collapsed due to structural weakening due to the fires. The problem is that we don't have large gradual deformations associated with collapses, and fires in high-rises have never brought down a steel frame high-rise building at all, ever. And what we have, unfortunately, is the evidence in the Twin Towers and the third skyscraper to collapse that day, which most people don't know anything about it. We have the evidence of the 10 key features of controlled demolition. In the case of Building 7, it collapses straight down into its own footprint at free fall speed in the first 100 feet. It's dropping, as you can see, symmetrically, smoothly, at free fall speed in the first 100 feet, 2.5 seconds. This is uncanny. There's 40,000 tons of structural steel designed to resist this collapse.
So what, a 47-story building?
Yeah, this is called Building 7, right? A football field away from the Twin Towers.
Okay, so what we're showing is left what happened. In fact, right is a controlled where you are using, or the people who made this happen, used demolition.
Indeed, and it's a direct comparison. And you can see that, indeed, almost free fall speed, free fall acceleration through 40,000 tons of structural steel. That is uncanny. So we have 700 architects and engineers demanding a new investigation as a result of this evidence and the evidence in the World Trade Center. That is very explosive. Almost every architect and engineer we show this information to agrees with us that these are controlled demolitions. If we can get them to look at the information, because obviously the implications of a controlled demolition are dark for our country, because that means somebody besides Al-Qaeda was involved, because these have to be easily 3 of the most highly secure buildings outside the Pentagon.
The North American Aerospace Defense Command is charged with defending North America's airspace. On the morning of September 11th, 2001, Vice President Dick Cheney was in control of NORAD. This was the first time in U.S. history that a president or vice president was in direct control of the military agency. NORAD was founded in 1957, and generals always had the power to shoot down or intercept hijacked aircraft. But on June 1st, 2001, just 3 months before 9/11, Dick Cheney ordered Donald Rumsfeld to allow him to take control of NORAD itself and the shoot-down procedure, and remove that power from the generals so they could do nothing. Here is a copy of the memorandum from Rumsfeld to the Joint Chiefs, telling them they no longer have any authority. An Associated Press article in August of 2002 reported that the CIA just so happened to be running a drill on the morning of 9/11 of flying jets in the World Trade Center and Pentagon. Then senior FAA officials ordered air traffic controllers to shred the tapes from 9/11 in violation of federal law.
First of all, you create the problem, but you get someone else to be blamed for it.
Well, demolition, would there not be any evidence at the ground level of explosives within the building
debris?
itself, that's the debris that's left?
Indeed, and what we find down there is pools of molten iron.
What does that mean?
Several tons. Exactly. What is that doing there? The first responders see it, the structural engineers see it. It's documented by FEMA, the melting of steel. Normal office fires is what's supposed to have brought these buildings down, along with jet plane impacts. The jet fuel and office fires don't produce molten iron or molten steel. It doesn't begin to melt until 3,000 degrees. But what we have is the fires only produce maybe 1,600 degrees. So what produced all that molten iron? Well, it has in it the chemical evidence of a special incendiary, which is thermite, a high-tech incendiary used to cut through steel like a hot knife through butter. Indeed, in all of the dust throughout lower Manhattan, we have a 4 to 6 inch thick layer of this dust, and throughout it we have evidence of tiny spheres, billions of them, several tons of previously molten iron. Well, how does that happen?
And at that point, they, who have covertly created the problem and blame someone else, who glean that reaction and do something, then offer the solution to the problems they have created.
Is there no way that they then could still be the enemy that placed those in the buildings first and then did the incendiary device via a plane second?
Right. Well, what you have to ask is who had access to the buildings? Did Al-Qaeda have access to these highly secure buildings? Probably not. Did they have access to sophisticated nanothermite, where the particles are 1,000 times smaller than a human hair? Probably not. Somebody else has to be investigated, and that's why we have 700 architects and engineers demanding a real investigation.
People of the United States and the world demand the truth, sir.
We have to continuously ask questions. That's what a patriot does. That's what a true American does. We ask questions.
You, sir, have the power as well as the responsibility to initiate a truly independent congressional investigation into the events of 9/11 as well as its aftermath. We want our country back, Mr. President. Therefore, I'm not just calling on you and your team. I'm calling on each and every American citizen to wake up, stand up, and demand the truth.
We want truth! We want truth! We want truth! We want truth! We want truth!
Further proof of the group's influence, according to Mars, comes in 1980 when Ronald Reagan, who is not a member of the Council on Foreign Relations or the Trilateral Commission, runs for president.
And he pledged in New Hampshire that if elected, he would investigate these secret societies. He also said that he would never accept the secret society member George Bush as a member of his administration. So he rushes into the National Convention late at night, very unprecedented, and says, I choose George Bush as my running mate. So George Bush, the secret society man, is now in the catbird seat. And then just a month or two after Reagan took office, he's shot. If it wasn't for about that much, it would have hit his heart, and George Bush would have been in years earlier.
And when George Bush does become president, his State of the Union address in 1991 contains a 3-word phrase that confirms for conspiracy advocates his secret globalist agenda.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a New World Order.
What is at stake is more in one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
What happens in terms of creating wars is a technique, a mind manipulation technique that I call in my books problem, reaction, solution. First of all, you create the problem, but you get someone else to be blamed for it. You then report that problem through the media in the way you want it reported, because the media is owned by the same people that own the banks, and etc.
A guy with a criminal record who had been in trouble a lot, we've been in and out of the drug.
You get the public to react to your problem by saying something must be done, this can't go on, what are they going to do about it? At that point, they, who have covertly created the problem and blame someone else, who glean that reaction of do something, then offer the solution to the problem have created.
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I had made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me and knew I was running for governor of Nevada. He was a very, very smart man, and we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts, and he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. And out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we'd go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened.
The United States has been built on the wars that it creates. To keep its people's support, it needs to convince them of a worldwide threat to allow it to continue with its military agenda. Therefore, the Muslim face of terror was created as a facade to achieve its major goals in the Middle East and the rest of the world. What was the real story behind 9/11? On the 27th of February, 1933, there was a fire in the Reichstag building in Berlin, an event which ushered in the Nazi Party in Germany. This attack was later admitted to be a false flag attack, in that the Nazis themselves were behind it, an attack on themselves to usher in their supreme power. So on 9/11, was it Muslims that plotted and executed the attack, coincidentally pushing the United States into war with Afghanistan and Iraq? Who is benefiting the most from 9/11? Things must be put into perspective. Who is in charge of NORAD on the morning of 9/11? And what of the Osama bin Laden confession tape?
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices. Secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads.
And what of the hundreds of witnesses who heard and saw explosions in the two towers?
And I remember he was telling me how how you're gonna see soldiers looking in caves and people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places, and there's gonna be this war on terror, of which there's no real enemy, and the whole thing is a giant hoax, you know, but it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
And you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to wonder exactly what President George W. Bush knew about the attack, and when he knew it. According to the official White House version, it was at this moment in a Florida classroom that Bush learned the second plane had hit the World Trade Center and that the U.S. was under attack. But here's what George Bush himself said almost 3 months later when asked about September 11th.
I was sitting outside the classroom waiting to go in, and I saw an airplane hit the tower of a the CD was obviously on, and I used to fly myself, and I said, well, there's one terrible pilot. And I said it must have been a horrible accident. But I was whisked off there. I didn't have much time to think about it.
Now wait a minute. George Bush was told about the second plane while he was inside the classroom. So you just heard him describe seeing the first plane crash on television that day. But that's impossible. No one saw the first plane crash on TV on September the 11th because the videotape of it didn't surface until the next day.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
The people who are trying to make this world worse are not taking a day off.
And if you hear the shouting, it's a group of demonstrators who've come. 9/11 was an inside job. Oh, get a life. Get a life. 9/11 was an inside job. But
there is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and it hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
Never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty. Conspiracy theories, conspiracy theories.
have been warned for more than 1,000 years about the signs of the end times, but we brushed it aside, as though we had all the time in the world, when in fact, if we had only listened, we would have known that the time is near.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you want to know what it is?
crystal meth-based drug have lost their homes, their families. Some turn to crime or even end up in mental asylums.
The country's struggle with illegal narcotics is a holy war.
is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it, that you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
Demons, Naga, Anunnaki, Chitauri, genies. Different cultures give them different names, but we in Islam call them the jinn. The most infamous of the jinn was Iblis. Iblis is also known as Satan. In the beginning, he was the most pious of the jinn, who have existed long before man. But when man was created in the form of Adam, God ordered all his creation to bow down before Adam in respect. It was then that Satan's pride took over and he disobeyed God. His pride was the weapon of his own decline, as he was cast out of heaven. However, before being cursed as such, he challenged God that he would lead astray all of mankind, the creation that was preferred above him.
I've nurtured every sensation man has been inspired to have. I cared about what he wanted, and I never judged him. Why? Because I never rejected him, in spite of all his imperfections. I'm a fan of man!
Thus began his mission to cause corruption within the individual humans, and ultimately between the person and his Lord. He went about this corruption through his jinn followers, commanding them to inflict their influence upon every one of us. The jinn reside in a world similar to ours. there are those of them who are pious believers, and those who are the disbelievers. Within them there are different religions, races, and sexes. They sometimes enter our world through different forms. The jinn are known to physically manifest into our world as black dogs, black cats, black birds, and snakes. There are even instances where they were able to manifest into human form. However, their most immediate effect in our world is in the influencing of mankind through whispering into our subconscious, placing certain ideas and thoughts into our heads. By this method, they are able to tempt mankind into committing sins, thus fulfilling the wishes of their master Satan. These sins, such as losing one's temper, the consumption of intoxicants, and the commitment of adultery, eventually make it easier for these jinn to possess the sinner. Such possession allows the jinn to have greater influence on the human, making the human a successful result of Satan's challenge to God. Possession is a spiritual battle between the human and the jinn, and is only successful for the jinn if the human spirit has been continuously weakened through external exposure to a sinful lifestyle. There are ultimately two forms of possession: voluntary and involuntary possession. Involuntary possession occurs when a human soul has become tainted due to disbelief, continuous sinning, or staying in a state of impurity for prolonged periods of time. Voluntary possession, however, is another story. This type of possession occurs when the jinn is commissioned through magic to possess the individual. The individual takes part in certain satanic and black magic rituals to which the jinn is voluntarily invited to possess the human. These acts are conducted by humans who have been exposed to jinn communication in the past. This communication